They say the world is a tapestry of soft edges and quiet routines. We build our lives on comfort and predictability, locking our doors at night, not out of fear, but out of habit.
But beneath that smooth veneer lies a jagged reality, because the terrifying truth is violence doesn't always announce itself with a scream. Sometimes it wears a polite smile, knocking on your door in a broad daylight.
Welcome back to Velvet Violence, the podcast where we look past the manicured surface of life to uncover the darkness corners of murder and crime. I'm Marta.
And I'm Diliana. Whether you're settling in for a long drive or you're pouring yourself a drink, pour it dark and dim the lights. We have a heavy one for you today. Let's make one thing clear before we step into the darkness. We're not detectives or lawyers. We don't solve crimes. We just emotionally process them with a microphone. This podcast is a retelling of real events using publicly available sources and wrapping them in our own narrative style. It's a commentary, not a courtroom. So please, don't come after us. We've seen enough true crime to know that never ends well. In late November of 2022, the small, tight-knit community of Paradise, Texas, was already gearing up for the holiday season. It's the kind of place that neighbors know neighbors, and the kids still play outside until the street lights come on. Among them was a 7-year-old Athena Strand. Athena was a spark of joy. She loved animals, she loved her family, and she was fiercely protective of her little sisters. But on November 30th, Athena was playing outside in her father's home yard, which was perfectly normal activity for her, except Athena never came back inside that day. What followed was a terrifying, frantic 48 hours nightmare. Hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement, and K-9 units swarmed the Wise County, combing through thick bush in the freezing cold, praying that they would find the little girl in a pink jacket. But the monster who took her wasn't hiding in the bushes. The monster had already come and gone. As investigators traced the little breadcrumbs of that afternoon, they discovered that a FedEx delivery driver pulled into that driveway the exact same time that Athena vanished. The driver was 31 years old, Tanner Horner. He wasn't a fearless drifter. He was a contracted delivery driver who was carrying a Christmas present meant for Athena herself. Today, we're breaking down the timeline of those harrowing 2 days in Texas. We will look at the shocking confession that shattered the community, the massive systematic failures of background checks, and the absolute heartbreak of a family fighting to make sure that Athena's name is never forgotten.
Alright, so let's get right into it. If you could tell me what happened in that afternoon on November the 30th. It was in 2022, right?
Yes, that's correct. So pretty much that day, Athena finished school and she got back home. At that time, she was living with her father and her stepmom, because her mom had some health issues, so she had to go through testing and stuff like that. So at that moment, she was living there. She went back home from school. She was supposed to do her laundry while her stepmom was cooking dinner, but she didn't. Obviously, she's a kid, so she wants to play outside. So she went in the yard and she was playing as kids do.
Yeah.
And about an hour later, her stepmom went outside to call her in for dinner, but Athena was nowhere to be found.
So at first, I reckon the family thought maybe she just wandered in the woods around the house, isn't it? Because as the kids do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing though, because all the kids were playing outside.
Yeah.
Because they lived it was just a house, then a woods, and then another house. They were in such a long distance between houses that it was so safe. So it was normal for kids just to play outside.
Yeah.
because there was no one around, literally no one. Obviously, her stepmom started looking for her everywhere. She called everyone around to check if maybe she went to someone's house, walked there or something, but no. So she called the police straight away, and it was just a massive search. There was so many people looking for Athena. There was like law enforcement, canine units, as I said. But the breakthrough came when investigators checked the digital logs of a FedEx driver who delivered the package in the house at 4:47, I think, so only 2 minutes after Athena left to play outside.
Jesus Christ. So was that the time, obviously, that 2 minutes after when she went missing, was that the time when they tracked the Turner guy, yeah? What did he say about the whole situation?
Well, basically, he cracked during the interview because they took him in for questioning. He made up such a shitty story that basically he was backing up with the truck and he hit her by accident. And she wasn't seriously hurt, but he got, I don't know, he panicked and he took her in the van.
So he, instead of just going to the parents and getting for help, like you said, it was just one house and woods. And
Yes.
he just decided to fucking took the injured little girl to the truck and drove away with her like there is nothing. Out
Yeah.
of panic.
That's what I mean, like his story was so stupid that I don't know, nobody would
No,
believe this shit
of course.
because accidents happen.
Yeah.
But that's not the right actions to take after. But it gets darker though. He actually kept doing his job, delivering packages with her on the back of the truck.
What?
And at some point, he stopped the van. He sexually assaulted her. He strangled her and he murdered her.
Oh my god. Jesus. I already hate this guy. How can you... He was just over 30 years old, so he was
31,
younger
yeah.
than us. I just can't believe it. But before we're gonna get into details a bit more, can you tell me a little bit about him actually? Who was
Yeah.
this guy?
Yes, so Tanner was born in August 8 in 1991. He was born and raised in Paradise, Texas, where this case takes place as well. Pretty much, he didn't have an easy childhood, okay? I still don't think that's an excuse,
No.
and I would never excuse anyone, because for you to have a horrible childhood and horrible life and just do this to some family,
Yeah.
and to some little girl, there is no excuse. But I'm just gonna give you a little bit of background about his father, about his mother. His father was a horrible person. He spent majority of his life in and out of prison. He's been molesting his sister. He was an abusive guy. He had problems with alcohol and drugs. He also abused Tanner's mother. Actually, how they met is so shocking. So his mom had issues as well. She didn't have an easy life. But at the age of just 17, she was already working in a strip club.
Right.
And that's where they met. So she was only 17 years old, as I said, and Tanner's father was 29 years old. So there is a big difference there. And maybe not if they were both a bit older.
Yeah.
But at this
She's a
point,
child.
she's only 17.
Yeah.
Fuck all at 17. And to me, it's so fucking frustrating, because how are 17 years old allowed to work in a strip club?
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah, a teenager. Well,
Exactly.
probably Cushion had a job and they were just trying. That place that she worked in obviously was illegal.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely. The way they met was there at the strip club, and basically the relationship started with him raping her.
Oh my god.
It's like,
What?
from the start you can tell this is not a healthy relationship, yeah? So that's how his mom and dad met, and that's how everything started. They get into this relationship. As you can imagine, it's very abusive. So he beats her up, he rapes her, he's got drug problems, he's heavy drinker. She also starts doing this shit. I'm not sure if she was doing it prior, but she had a lot of issues as well later on with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and she got pregnant. That's important because she got pregnant with Tanner. For the first months, she didn't even realize she was pregnant, so she was still drinking, taking drugs, and you can imagine what's happening with that child in her
Yeah.
belly. Like, it's not normal, is it? During the trial, actually, his mom gave a testimony, so she was there, and that's how we know all that. She described him as a very isolated child. He was very traumatized from his upbringing, obviously. He's witnessed how his mom's getting beaten up by his dad. His dad was non-present majority of the time, but when he was there, it was bad. So he was mainly raised by his grandmother, and later on, he basically lives in that grandmother's shed.
Oh.
And that shed was just horrific as well. But for now, it's just important for you to know that he had a horrible childhood. Horrible. Later on, he was diagnosed with ADHD, and he was also diagnosed with being in an autistic spectrum. He also had something called alcohol syndrome or something like that. So that's because obviously his mom was doing all
it was probably when she delivered him, he was probably already addicted to alcohol and drugs as an infant.
Exactly, and that would affect him till the rest of his life, because he would have a lot of neurological problems. He had difficulties to learn whatever, so he was already in a very bad state since the moment he was born. But obviously those issues came later on in his life. Because of those mental delays, he was very awkward child. He was bullied constantly at school. So his life didn't become any easier when he started school and all that. So he had issues from the start of his life, and those issues never ended really, because obviously he was so fucked up. Later on in his 20s pretty much, he was in a band. The band was called Commit and Conquer. So you can find on YouTube videos with him singing. He was the vocalist of this band. Not very good one, but yes. So during that time, that band gained a lot of teenage girls following. So teenage girls, we know, me and you're crazy about bands. You want to see them live. That's what was happening at this point in Tanner's life. But he was taking advantage of that. During the trial, 2 women testified that he sexually assaulted them when he was in his 20s, around 22, and they were only 16. So he was getting girls drunk, taking them to this shed and literally assaulting them while they was in that condition, because he was literally giving them so much alcohol for them to pass out and to be not aware what's happening. So those girls would be waking up in the middle of the night with Tanner on top of them.
Oh God.
So they testified, and it's so heartbreaking to think that he was doing this shit from that time.
Was he actually convicted for that?
So they never really said anything, but at least they had the courage to come and say all that on the trial of Athena, because it's hard, you know. It's hard when you're that 16 years old. What do you know? Maybe they blame themselves.
Of course. Well, they just wanted to have a good time and see a band that's just local. That's what we used to do. I was going on concerts all the time, and I would never expect that actually the band that I fancy would do so, bad things to me.
Yeah, he was taking advantage of
Jesus
this,
Christ.
and it was so bad because, I don't know, to me it's like when you go to events like that and you expect to be safe.
Yeah, therefore.
And then you expect people to have the best intentions there.
Yeah, especially, I assume, is that a rock band? Or
yes,
it is,
it's a rock band.
So that community, I don't know, in Eastern Europe and in UK, it's a community that you want to spend time with, because
it's like
it's
a family
safe.
with some bands, even like their fan
and
base.
And with the crowd, it's like you feel safe. You barely see any robberies, nothing, and you're just going to your family, as you said.
Yeah, exactly, and you just feel like you're safe, because even like, obviously we know there's a lot of dancing, which is like a bit more extreme, but people look after each other. If someone fell in the crowd, you'll be lifted straight away. That's how I feel when I'm like, I feel completely safe. And that's the unfortunate thing, that with dickheads like that, he was taking advantage of his position. And that's the saddest part, when those girls were talking obviously years and years later on the trial. It's just so heartbreaking because it's scary to think there are still people who are afraid to come and say that they've been assaulted, and it's very sad.
And it's a shame that, I don't know if police would even listen to them if they would report it, because if he would have a criminal record, it probably would be impossible to work for FedEx with a criminal record. Do you know what I mean? So perhaps that might not happen, what we're talking about today, but
yeah,
you know how it is in US, in UK, everywhere. I assume probably if they would report it, nothing would happen, unfortunately.
Tanner's cousin as well came forward on the trial, and he said that Tanner was sexually abusing him through the childhood. And the most terrifying thing is that at some point he told his cousin that he wondered how it feels to murder someone. And you can tell by all that, guys, that this guy was from another planet completely. Since he was young, he obviously didn't know what's right, what's wrong, and he was completely fucked up in the head, which again, I don't excuse him, but I just think he really was doing all that shit when he was young to people, to his family as well. It's crazy to me that he went so far in life and was able to even work for those companies. Like he worked in FedEx, in Papa John's, in like Uber. He was delivering for companies like that, and I'm like, how?
Yeah,
it's just,
oh my god, he
up.
was just putting a facade. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he had the experience, and they just took him on board. It's just so sad. Obviously he didn't get the help he needed at very young age, and he just became that monster that we unfortunately talking about today.
And in 2021, I just can't even believe that in 2021, when he was 29 years old, he managed to find a girlfriend, and he had a son with her.
What?
Yes. So
and this happened just a year later.
Yes. He had a child, guys, and I'm like, why? Why people like that have children? I don't understand, guys. Like, you see how your life is going, and that girl, I don't know, they were engaged and stuff, and I'm like, they were still living in that shed.
Yeah.
In his grandmother's shed, which was like no conditions for child to be raised in.
Probably not for them too, just for adults. Yeah.
It was just a shed with a bed and some shit on the walls. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't have children. You shouldn't. If you can't even take care of yourself.
No, of course.
So yes, as I said, he was working for FedEx at the time. But the funny thing is he wasn't really working directly for them. He was working for them through a different company called Big Top Spin.
Right, okay.
So I'm not really aware how this is happening, but apparently you can do that. FedEx doesn't have to employ you directly. They can use other companies too.
Mm-hmm. Like a third party. Yeah,
third party.
So they both gain some sort of percentage probably, and he not getting the full pay, I assume. But
yeah, but it's still, for me, there should be more background checks.
Oh, definitely.
About the drivers, because they go literally like to people's houses.
Yeah.
And as we know what happened in today's case, it's so scary to think of.
It is, and there is absolutely no excuse of what he did, and it's just gonna be a nightmare for me again, talking about the cases that you like to choose. I've heard about it before, but I literally no details whatsoever. When you showed me pictures before, I kind of recognize it, but it's just not something that I read through it, so it's very intriguing to hear about those monsters that we are unfortunately surrounded with. But what about Athena? If you could tell me a little bit more about her.
So Athena was born on May 23rd in 2015. She was described by her family like pure joy since the moment she was born. She was just so sweet. She loved to do a girly stuff like every girl would do when she grew up a little bit. So she was wearing her princess dresses. Her favorite color was pink. She was just so caring to her little sisters as well, because she was the oldest. And even though her parents, they split up, She had a great relationship with both of them. Even her mom later on said their co-parenting was going pretty damn good because it was just great. She was so involved with both of her parents, and they loved her just so very much. She had a very vibrant energy. She loved to learn. So when she started school, she was only 7 years old when the murder happened, but she was in first grade. So she loved her friends. Her friends loved her as well. And everyone just kept saying about her, even her teachers, that she just brightened up the room and she was just an amazing child. Her mom said that she was honored to have her as daughter. Even though she loved to wear her princess dresses, she had a cowgirl boots as well, and she loved to play in the mud as well. Because she was a child, she was a bit wild. How did her stepmother call her? She was feral. So she was literally like wild child, but in a good way, in the best way possible. She also loved animals. She loved cats, dogs, horses, chinchillas, everything you can think of. She loved animals, and she loved to ride horses. She loved to be outside, and it's just so heartbreaking because that's how she was taken, like playing outside and at the place that she should have been the safest. And when I found out about this case, was through a picture that I saw on the internet, and that picture is so eerie when you think how fast everything happened and how did it end. It's just, I don't even wanna know more. But when I looked into it, I just thought it's very important to cover this case because people should know. I missed to tell you, so her father's name was Jacob Strand and her mom's name was Maitland Gandhi. They had Athena when her mom was 19 years old and her dad was around 23. Once they split up, Athena was living with her mother for majority of her life. But her mom, as I said earlier, she had some health issues. So that's the reason why she was staying with her dad and her stepmom at the time of the kidnapping happened and the murder later on. But that's the thing though, can you imagine how those people feel? Because like the guilt they carry, even her dad later on said on the trial that he's just overwhelmed with guilt. Because he couldn't protect his girl. And I just want to clarify, it's no one's fault. And I understand that people would feel guilty, but the only person who has responsibility for what happened is Tanner, because he's a fucked up, horrible guy. And he did that to, not just to Athena, to the whole family. He ruined their family just in one day. It's just crazy.
You can't expect to lock your child and keep it at home all the time with proper supervision. They need to be children also. We used to go out and shit like that never happened. You would never think, and we would just never think that something bad gonna happen. So there is no, they shouldn't feel guilt. I understand they always will, because what if they would be there and protect her? But you buying a house somewhere safe in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods with nature, why should you even worry that something bad gonna happen? Even if you would live in a town, you know, like surrounded by a lot of people, you should not worry that something bad gonna happen. And it's such a shame that we live in those days that you just need to, anything could happen.
And that's the thing though, I missed to tell you, obviously that house that she was staying in with her dad's house, he's been living there for generations. He was raised there, and he just knew that it's a safe place to raise children. That's why he stayed there, and like he raised his family there and everything. So nothing like that ever happened there before. So how can you expect that one fucked up guy is gonna deliver you a package to your door? And he just didn't even knock on the door or ring the bell or anything. He just left that package there. And in that package was a Barbie dolls for Athena herself. So fucked up. It's just crazy.
Okay. I will regret that question, and I know we already know a little bit of what happened, but I'm sure there's more details about it. So if you could actually tell me what happened that day to Athena.
I just want to say the stuff that I'm about to say, I just can't even believe that happened to a 7-year-old child. And guys, if you can't handle stuff like that, better skip that part because it's very hard to listen to. So on that day, November 30th, as we know, Athena was outside playing. The van then pulled up, and the driver, as we know, was Tanner Horner. So he pulled up in front of the house. He just took the package from the back of the van. He left it in front of the door. The thing is, there was security cameras in that van.
Right.
On the back of it and where the driver's seat is. He did know about that, but I'm not sure if he knew that there was audio on those cameras as well. So you can see, apparently, I haven't watched this, those videos are never been released to the public, but apparently you can see how he's looking around and he obviously sees Athena and he starts talking to her. We don't know what they talk about, but I can only imagine he's trying to lure her to come closer and to look inside the van on the back of it, yeah? And the moment she did come close to the van, he just bundled her and put her on the back of the van and he closed the door behind her. Once that happened, he just got into the van himself and he drove off. Once Tanner was already on the road, he started talking to Athena because she was asking him question after question. She was, what are you doing? Where are we going? Are you a kidnapper? Why are you doing this? And he was just like answering her questions, and at some point he just started asking her questions. He was like, where do you go to school? Tell me about your family. He was asking her questions like this. And the thing is, she was asking him questions back. And the most disturbing part is, Athena does not seem to be scared. Later on, it was said that she was confused.
Yeah.
But not overly scared. He's asking her questions. She's asking him questions about where does he live, what is his name, and stuff like that. And it's so strange that she was just calm but still realizing. I can imagine she was so confused what's happening to her. Obviously she's asking him questions like, are you a kidnapper?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? But it gets dark very quickly because at some point she's asking him, why are you doing this? And he's like, because you're pretty, you know that, right? And you can tell from there that things are just gonna get worse. That picture that I showed you earlier as well, it's how I found out about this. But when you know what happened after that picture, it's just so terrifying to know that girl went through what she went through. And what happened next is the worst thing that I've ever heard about, honestly. Like, he stopped the van and he told her to take her shirt off. She refused and she started saying, no, my mom has told me that you shouldn't do that to people and you shouldn't do that to me. I just can't.
Okay.
Once he was on the back of the van with her. He covered that camera, but the audio was still recording. So you could hear everything. You could hear banging. You could hear choking. You could hear commotion and what was happening. And the saddest part is that I just can't do this shit.
Okay.
The saddest part is that you could hear Athena saying, I want my mama. And that was just... that just broke my heart because she probably felt so alone.
Yeah.
And she just... you could hear that she gets quiet and then you could hear a deep breath and then she started breathing again. And we obviously don't know in what order and what exactly happened, but later on it was found out via DNA that she was sexually assaulted as well. Unfortunately, the attack was quite long. It kept going and going, and I just can't talk about it anymore because it's too hard, but it took around an hour until she passed away due to blunt force trauma. So he probably beat her up, choked her, sexually assaulted her, but the thing is, it was so long. And what pisses me off the most is how careless he was into doing it.
Yeah.
So we're talking, it's November, yeah? The radio was on, and a Christmas song started playing, Jingle Bell Rock. He was fucking singing while he was doing all this shit. He was singing the song. And I'm like, what kind of person does this?
He was fucking Delulu.
It's just
seriously.
They should be, if there is a hell or whatever, there should be a special place for him to go and fucking be tortured and whatever. I just hope that this guy just, I don't know what kind of bad can happen to him for it to be justice, because no. Sorry guys, I'm very emotional. The hardest thing to imagine is that little girl was just murdered by this guy who didn't care at all. He didn't care to this point that after he murdered her, he just continued to do his deliveries. Like, just left her body on the back of that fucking van. And he was driving to people's houses, having a small talk with people. He even drove to her house. The police, the law enforcement was already there. He had a convo with them. He just wanted to fucking check what's popping.
No remorse whatsoever. It's just...
Yes, and the thing is, I'm not quite sure if he did that before he dumped the body or after, but it doesn't really matter. No. It's bad enough.
The confidence the guy had, do you know what I mean, going to that place, if the law enforcement is already there, maybe they already know who did it through to some sort of like neighborhood watch, do you know what I mean? So he went there, even though if you wouldn't have the body inside, but it's still the DNA and everything, they could just snatch him straight away. Like, he just fucking lived on another planet, man.
I know, he was unhinged. I just can't believe the whole thing, like how careless he was. He didn't give a shit. He literally left her body around 9 miles away from her house, yeah, in some creek. And I'm like, how would you even think you can live normal life after that? This?
Yeah. And going to his fiancé and the child as well.
Yeah, he went back home to his child and his fiancé, girlfriend, whatever. And I'm like, what the hell? Thankfully, they quickly found out. By quickly, I mean, it took them days, couple of days. But they found out that he was at that property delivering a parcel. So they took him in for questioning and he cracked. So basically he made up that...
shitty story from the beginning.
Yeah, like he hit her, he panicked, and that's why he murdered her. And I'm like, to be honest, would it be better if that what happened? I don't know. Obviously not. But what he did was millions times worse.
Of course. So when they interrogated her, obviously he made up the story, and then I assume that he finally opened up and said what happened, or was it just because the camera and the voice that was inside the van revealed of what happened?
Yes, they searched the van, and that's how they found out that he was lying about this shit. He never confessed to what actually happened. He was sticking up to this story that he hit her by accident and stuff, but When they found that footage, because obviously you can see in the beginning, after that he covered it, but later on was discovered that even an hour prior his shift, he was trying to cover the cameras in the van. So it was fucking premeditated. He was going to do something this day, and unfortunately, probably the first person that he came across was little Athena, and she paid the price for his fucking actions. And I'm like, why there is people like that in this world? And if you listen to the trial, to her family, to her parents, to her uncle, it's just your heart's gonna fucking die a little bit. It's so freaking sad. And he ruined their lives never gonna be the same, but they're just gonna keep fighting for people to get justice, and like people like that to be off the streets. Because I think her father even sued FedEx later on, because obviously he wasn't convicted prior, but surely there should be more checks about people like this.
Especially when you're working with people, you're getting into the property. And like you said, he used to work in retail anyway, so it should be some sort of fucking background check, because you're working with people, come on.
Yeah.
I know you don't assume that every employer is about to sexually assault someone or kill someone, but it's just, I feel like you should have more steps with getting into your background, not just, oh yeah, he will show up on time and yes, he can do the job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm gonna employ you. It's just crazy. So what about the trial? Tell me the good news.
Well, he got the death penalty.
Good.
It took the jury literally 3 hours
Perfect
to decide. He pled guilty since the beginning. Obviously, it was just the decision what sentence he's gonna get, either death penalty or life in prison. But the thing is, I don't even think that defense had case when they were playing those audios, because it was so long, the attack. Everyone was so fucked up, emotional, crying. Even the defense was getting like choked up. And you can't find excuse for this shit. You can't. And the thing is, when you hear her family talking, it's just as I said, it's so heartbreaking to think that they had to go through this because of him. And her mom pretty much, she said that she will always be fighting for Athena and for her name to keep it alive and not to be forgotten, because she wasn't just a picture. She was a little girl and she was real, and
a very brave one as well.
Yeah, and it breaks my heart because her mom dyed her hair pink because that was her favorite color, and also the funeral, because they wanted to keep it like Athena's personality, so everyone was dressed in pink. And they were playing Disney songs, her favorite ones, because she literally, by her father's words, she could sing Frozen songs all the time, 24/7. And it's just so sad, guys. And when he was sentenced to death, that happened on 6th of May in 2026. So that was literally
just gone.
The defense didn't even have a case. They had some story that he had another personality, Zero, that was making him do this shit, but I'm not even gonna touch on that because
there's no point.
No. It took only 3 hours for the jury to decide that he's gonna have the death penalty. So once he was sentenced, her uncle, Athena's uncle, made a statement, and he was addressing him. He was looking at his face, and Tanner was also looking at her uncle. He said, "You are nothing. You are a footnote in Athena's story. Her name will always be remembered. Her name will forever be celebrated, and everyone will forget you. Athena is more than a headline. She was laughter, curiosity, kindness, and innocence, and she had dreams that she would never get to chase, birthdays that she will never get to celebrate, and a life she will never get to live because of his actions. And guys, I just can't. But I want you to remember this, that we don't need to talk about him anymore.
No.
And she's the only person who needs to be remembered.
Yes, and she was very brave, and I'm glad that we covered that case, even though it's very hard to listen and to talk about. But we need to know about monsters like that also, and we need to remember about children, that they were just absolutely amazing and he could have the best life ever, but we'll remember her as this little vicious and crazy girl that was just surrounding in the woods and having the best time of her life. And I'm sure that's what the family members and parents remember her by. So we're wearing pink today. Diliana told me to wear pink obviously it was Athena's favorite color, so we want to celebrate her happiness and her life she had. She didn't came from a bad childhood, but parents. Their parents absolutely loved her and adored her, so she will remember that forever, I'm sure of her.
And I just feel so bad that this happened to her family. I'm so sorry what they went through and what happened to Athena. It's just not fair, and unfortunately life is not fair, but we're just gonna remember that she was kind, she loved animals, she loved her family, and we'll always remember her. And her uncle was right, everyone will forget Tanner because he is nothing. As I said, guys, today's case was very, very hard, as you can say, because I could barely go through it.
Yeah, but that's okay. We need to talk about those cases, and I hope you guys maybe enjoy it. Is about words today, but are interested of what we were talking about today. And thank you so much that you managed to go through that case, because I know
Barely.
it wasn't it wasn't an easy one today.
Yes, barely I could. But yes, guys, we are here every Sunday, and if you do like what we're doing, like, subscribe. It would really help us out, because we're trying really to keep things as interesting as possible, even though today's case wasn't as interesting. It was just all sad. But yes, we will see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.